A humanitarian flight from the Red Cross made it into Khartoum today. It's the first flight from the aid organization delivering supplies, including surgical material to support Sudanese hospitals and volunteers from the Sudan Red Crescent Society. For more on this, we've reached Crystal Wells. She's a spokesperson at the International Committee of the Red Cross. She joins us from Geneva. Crystal, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What are some of the current challenges that you and your colleagues are facing when it comes to trying to get aid into Sudan?
The supplies that arrived to Port Sudan today are a huge relief, and they're an important first step for us in terms of allowing us to start to scale up our response. But it's just a first step. Obviously, these supplies will only be life-saving once they're in the hands of doctors and nurses with a patient in front of them who needs them. So our priority now is to deliver them to hospitals. And to do that, we will need security guarantees from the parties to the conflict and some of the minimum security for our team to have the access to hospitals in Khartoum and other hotspots where there's been fighting, so we can get them to hospitals. And this is now the focus and priority of our teams in Sudan today.
And help us understand just some of why that is going to be so difficult. We know that most of what has arrived, or you're trying to get, of course, are these medical supplies, like you're saying that you're trying to get to hospitals. Once they're actually on the ground, you're saying you need security guarantees. Help us understand what it is that they might be running into as they're trying to get these supplies to those hospitals.
That's right. So for the ICRC and for humanitarian organizations operating in conflict zones like Sudan, having security guarantees from parties to the conflict is critical. It's what gives us basically the safety that we need to be able to have the access to get it to hospitals. And as you've seen in the last 2 weeks, the fighting in Khartoum has been extremely heavy. We've seen street-by-street fighting. We've seen a lot of use of very heavy explosive weapons in Khartoum. And the security situation is very volatile. It's very difficult. It's very dangerous. So we'll be looking to get these security guarantees from the parties, with the hope that we can get them to hospitals as quickly as possible.
The ICRC has said that it's preparing to send a second plane, this time with emergency personnel. On top of that, what else is needed right now on the ground in Sudan?
That's right. We're looking to scale up our response with additional staff in the coming days, and there'll also be some additional supplies that go in, like first aid kits, we hope. But truly, the needs are skyrocketing. They're increasing by the hour. And it's our hope that this first flight into Sudan today can be the start of something that is more routine and regular, and that we can build a system to get supplies and to get staff into the country, because the needs are just huge. And I think when we're looking at the crisis in Sudan, we have to remember that this is a country that has also, on top of this conflict, faced years and decades of violence and conflict and instability. I think about communities in Darfur who are displaced from their homes from years of fighting and violence. They're displaced from their homes because of climate shocks like terrible flooding last year. And millions of people don't have access to the basics that they need to be able to survive, like food, water, shelter, and medical care. So these supplies are really targeted at those hospitals that we know really need them. The WHO has said that only 16% of hospitals in Khartoum are functioning, which is an alarming statistic given it's a city of millions of people. And doctors and nurses are under huge pressure to be able to care for patients in a conflict zone with dwindling supplies. This is a good first step, but much more is going to be needed because the needs are huge.
Crystal, thank you for this. We do appreciate this today, your time and your perspective on all of this as the situation, of course, continues to deteriorate. Thank you so much. Crystal Wells is a spokesperson.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Crystal Wells, spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross.